Hello, this is Deponent Features, and I'd like to share with you 4 short essays. As a bit of an explainer, this video is based off of an assignment I did in one of my film classes. It involved writing one essay for about every week of class, with the catch being that it had to be between 250 and 350 words, which is about 2 to 3 paragraphs. This is obviously not enough space to be structured like the 5-paragraph hamburger essay that you learned in high school if you're like me, and the general strategy is to keep any introduction and conclusion to a sentence or two and just get on with the analysis. In order to keep within the word limit, I've tried to pick relatively well-known movies so that I don't have to introduce characters or plots. If you haven't seen these movies, I obviously recommend them, but I might include spoilers in these essays. In this video, I want to talk about Taxi Driver and the Symbol of the Car, Dune's exploration of the natural world, Bronson's amoral hyperviolence, and The Dark Knight's atmosphere of paranoia. The automobile has had a massive impact on American culture. It is touted as the pinnacle of independence, giving people the freedom to move anywhere they want with ease, as well as access to endless vistas while providing indoor comforts. In film, the genre of the road movie uses the car as a means to allow protagonists to discover their own independence, protagonists who are generally disillusioned with modern life. These films present vast open landscapes to audiences, giving characters massive spaces to lead their own journeys and travel by their own whims. While it's not a part of the road movie genre, Taxi Driver subverts the narrative of the car that road movies present. Travis Bickle, a lonely outcast in a big city, sees being a taxi driver as a way out of his melancholy.
I can't sleep nights.
There's porno theaters for that.
Yeah, I know, I tried that.
But while road movie protagonists use their cars to forge their own paths, Travis's car only imprisons him. He is simply a coachman, driving a car that he doesn't own, following the directions of his passengers rather than his own will. Instead of driving on highways that give way to vast landscapes, Travis is trapped in the decrepit, labyrinthine, and indistinguishable streets of New York. His view through the windshield is almost always obstructed by buildings or refracted through windows. His gaze, which might be seen on the faces of odd and curious sightseers in road movies, is rather seen as voyeuristic and suspicious. At night, the endless lights wash out everything he sees, and the things he does manage to see only disgust him further. Travis's inward journey is not one of self-affirmation, but a downward spiral into madness. The great American symbol of independence, the car, only works against Travis to further atomize and isolate him. His disenchantment with modern life does not spark a search for inner peace. Rather, it allows violent tendencies to brew and eventually come to the surface. The film presents a dark image of the car's effect on people, directly opposed to the image of independence and freedom that most people are used to. One of the ways in which Denis Villeneuve succeeded in adapting Dune is his use of nature to tell the story. Frank Herbert's novels tie the complex political and social conflicts of its universe to the ecology of a single planet, Arrakis, which is seemingly simple and desolate, but held together by a complex system that binds the entire universe. Villeneuve's approach is different. He uses the natural environments to reflect the characters and their motivations. Paul's regret at leaving Caladan is expressed only by him picking a blade of grass while waiting to leave for Arrakis. The Fremen can burst from the sand and attack swiftly and ferociously, showing their knowledge of the environment and their fierce determination to defend their land. The human-built structures are also deeply tied to the environments they're placed in. On Seleucus Secundus, Sardaukar soldiers are conditioned to be ruthless fighters by relentless torture. Instead of depicting their pain, however, the camera pans over the harsh structures they are tied to. The unrelenting rain pounding on the stone structures evokes the erosive quality of water, much different from its precious life-saving quality on Arrakis. The natural world has another use in Dune, one that calls back to Villeneuve's previous film, Arrival. The massive transport ships are not overly complex and stylized, rather they are simple shapes, massive in scale and evocative of unfinished stone. In Arrival, this approach gives the alien's ship an uncanny characteristic, something familiar but not quite right, imposing structures that defy logical explanation or any clear intention. In Dune, these ships work to separate the vastly complex universe from the humans that inhabit it. It's as if humans have been simply born into their technological supremacy at random. The technological world is like the natural world. Humans are a part of it and can manipulate aspects to their own benefit, but by no means are humans masters of these worlds. Ultimately, their complexities are far too great for humans to be able to understand them in their entirety. Discussions about violence in movies tend to center around the morality of violence, whether or not the characters use violence to achieve positive or negative goals. Many films, such as superhero movies, can skirt this issue if characters are portrayed as undeniably good and their victims are seen as undeniably evil. Often, films that are branded as ultra-violent either present main characters who do violence for evil intentions or create scenarios that muddy our conventional moral codes. But imagine if violence wasn't about morality at all. What if a film focused not on judging the use of violence on screen, but on the act of violence itself? This is what we find in Bronson. In the film, violence is not a tool for good or bad, but a tool to achieve fame. Charles Bronson's singular fixation is to be famous, a goal he achieves by becoming the most dangerous prisoner in Britain. Most of the fights he gets into lack any specific goal or provocation.
What do you want?
What have you got?
In fact, he often loses the fights that he gets into. As is shown at the end of the film, violence, to Bronson, is an artistic expression of himself, a personal performance more than an imposition of his will onto others.
What is it you want now?
Music.
Few movies get to the heart of investigating the act of violence itself. Action movies especially rely on stereotyped behaviors and characters to separate good guys from bad, and present an oversimplified view of the world. In Bronson, the depiction of violence as a personal expression avoids the question of morality altogether. The quote-unquote hero is simultaneously glorified and ridiculed, having a meticulously sculpted, muscular body, while also shown raving, nude, covering himself in excrement, and willing to fight dogs for money. He is both Achilles and Thersites. Bronson shows the true face of violence, unspoiled by the trappings of ethics and morality. Violence is beautiful and ugly, a dance and a brutality, a sport to some and a life to others. It's clear that, in hindsight, The Dark Knight was fully steeped in the post-9/11 climate of America. Nolan's take on Gotham City is indistinguishable from modern-day Manhattan, and his version of the Joker is an explicit agent of chaotic, random violence. Nolan surely took Batman out of the realm of Gothic architecture and camp, but his idea of realism is in some ways just a fantasy reimagining of the streets of New York during September 11th. Many have pointed to Batman's hacking of personal phones as a clear parallel to, and justification of, the infringement of the rights and privacy of US citizens by their government in response to the attacks, but there's a deeper thread to examine. Throughout the film, there is an overwhelming paranoia and suspicion of any and everyone apart from the main characters. The Joker's criminal enterprise is depicted as being so powerful, threatening, and tempting that his henchmen almost literally come out of nowhere. Seemingly anyone could secretly be a part of his plan. Mob bosses can't trust their own henchmen, corrupt policemen are potential agents of terror, and normal citizens are driven to attempt murder at the mere threat of a bombing. The film rationalizes this paranoia by portraying the public as driven solely by fear, easily manipulated by the Joker, and falling into a mob mentality with the slightest touch. This justifies Batman's complete disregard for personal privacy, both in hacking people's phones and in accessing private family medical records. The Dark Knight gives an insight into how a government that claims to value the rights of its citizens can so egregiously flaunt their civil liberties. High-level officials see themselves as indisposable. They are the only people responsible for making decisions for their citizens, and any threat to them is a threat to the entire social order. However, this self-aggrandizement is hollow. In many situations, they undeniably do more harm than good, which they may even acknowledge.
Because sometimes truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded.
Truly, the only thing that underpins their supposed moral superiority is a constructed binary. They are the good guys, and their enemies are the bad guys.